at Animals Fate podcast and our YouTube channel. I'm here today with my franchisee Anna. Anna has an Animals Fate franchise in Switzerland. Welcome, Anna, and do you want to tell something about yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Anna. Like Liz already said, I'm one of her franchisees. I moved back to Switzerland, I think it's 2 years now. And before that, I was living in the Netherlands for 5 years. What do you want to know, or what would be nice to know for the people? What do you think?
Well, I think it's very interesting in how you started the franchise. What is something you like? Why did you choose for a franchise instead of just working with your dogs on your own? What do you like about animals, fate, and the philosophy behind it, etc.
Yeah, I think that we were talking about it already before I was leaving, a little bit like what would be the right thing for me to do because I was born in Switzerland and I grew up there, and there was this wish to go back. So I think you really helped me finding also the courage to just say like, okay, I could do this on my own, like helping dogs, but combine it with going back home. And then that's how we decided together that would be the best to a franchise in Switzerland, because of course there's everywhere dogs that we can help. Yeah, I think the first time I actually knew Animals Faith for and Stichting Animals Faith for much longer than like before I was working, because I was already checking to adopt a dog from there before I got my first dog, which was then from another shelter. Funny enough, when I wanted to get a second dog, I came back to Stichting Animals Faith again. I remember that we came to meet the dog, and then I saw you there, and you said like, "Oh, I think we were like had a short conversation about the dog I already had and the problems he had, and you came actually for a house visit at my place. And I think we did talk about my dog, like his name is Kylo. We did talk about Kylo, and I mean, you helped me and everything, but I think it was more also like, oh, that's so awesome. I always wanted to work with dogs. You kind of reeled me in to come and do volunteer work. Yeah, so that's how it all started. And I was always like really drawn to the way we work with dogs because it just makes a lot of sense. And it always felt for me like everything I already felt was right, just to then do exactly that with dogs and help them and help people understand them better. So it felt really natural for me to just kind of grow in this and grow as a person and as a dog trainer as well. I think that was a bit meant to be. For me, it feels at least like that.
Yeah, for me too. It was like the house visit I can still remember, and then we totally hit it off, right? From
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, she gets it. We need her."
Yeah, it was just so nice. And then it was like, okay, I volunteer one day. And it was like, okay, I volunteer 2 days. And then I was like, I really want a job. I really want to give you a job. So I think that was like yeah, it's just how it had to go.
Yeah. Hey, and then you moved to Switzerland, and I would imagine when I travel to other countries, I always have this image of the country in my
Hmm.
head. And then once I'm in the country, most of the time the image isn't totally correct or totally
Yeah.
wrong. How was that for you? Like, did you have an image in your head about the well-being of dogs in Switzerland, and did it match what you actually found out when you start living there, or did you see a lot of differences there?
It was different, like totally different, because I had such rose-colored glasses on. Really, it was extreme when I came back because I understand that the shelter we have in the Netherlands already is different because, of course, we do so much more with the dogs. They get walked more, they get trained, and everything like that. But I had this idea that in Switzerland, every shelter will be like that because, yeah, I don't know. I thought like it has to be good, you know? It has to be good. And there are very strict laws here for animal welfare and animal well being. And now, like, the longer I'm here, the longer, or maybe I have to say, the more I see behind the closed doors, I see that there's, like, I guess everywhere, a lot is going wrong. I do miss, yeah, there's not a lot of shelters who really do what we did, like that they walk and train the dogs that well. It can be different reasons due to not having enough people working there, but there were some moments where I felt really disappointed when things happened, also with how dogs get euthanized, yeah, for really stupid reasons. Neither are they sick nor do they have behavioral problems, just because the government, so to speak, thinks they can be placed or they're not allowed in the country. And there's just so many things happening where I see, like, okay, there's so much to do. There's so many people to educate and to help. And that was a big, big difference because I really had these completely rose colored glasses on and I thought like everything is going to be better. So I think, I don't know how to say that, but there's a lot going on also with myself to come to terms with that, I think, and to find ways to bring change as well.
Yeah, because is that something, if you see how it actually is now in Switzerland instead of the image that you had and the more rose-colored image, is it something that motivates you? Like, do you feel more driven to really make a change, or is it something that immobilizes you and you think like, oh my God, how am I ever going to change this?
I have to be honest, there are some little short moments where I feel a bit like immobilized and I think like, shit, okay, how can I do this? And maybe there's also moments of grief when you see or realize stuff is happening and you couldn't, maybe you didn't have the chance to change it for this dog or another dog, or you were too late, or they didn't want your help, you know. But the biggest part is that it just drives me more. Like it gives me more purpose. So it's in the end, even though it's not very positive, it gives me more drive. Yes, really more drive and more energy to just go on.
Right. And
Yes.
what is one of the things that you really would want to change in Switzerland? Like, if you could have a magic wand and you could wave it around, what would be the first thing you would change?
What would be the first thing I would change? Mostly to have a space to bring these dogs that can't go anywhere else. You know, like really just have this place, if it's a shelter or anything else. It's, for me, it's not that important how you would call that. It's just more have this space to actually take in dogs that where they can't find another place for. So because this is of course a lot the argument they're giving, like we don't have the space, we don't have anyone taking these dogs, so they have to die. For example, like, okay, no one wants to take them, no one wants to train them, and as a person living in an apartment or like as a private person and now already with 5 dogs, you can't just take dog after dog, right? And then in the end, you have a shelter at home and 30 dogs. It's just not possible. So I think that's what I would have want to have. If I have like a little one, I would like swoosh, and then I would have like, I don't know, some really big farm somewhere, someone who helps me clean, maybe. And then I would just give this room where people could, not just people, like private people, but also like the government, where they know, like, okay, that's a place we can bring these dogs to.
Yeah. So you just, if I hear it like this, you just won the second Animals Faith Foundation just in Switzerland.
Yeah, if you, yeah, kind of, yeah. I would
Wow,
say so.
can make that happen. Okay, that is something we don't have as much anymore since a decade now. The discrimination in breeds, we still discriminate breeds, of course, but at
Yes.
least we don't have the law anymore where Staffords are not allowed. That is still a big thing in Switzerland, right? What is your view on that?
I don't like it very much, but I also don't think it has a big impact or a big use. It really just moves the problem somewhere else. I always feels like that for me. And the point is that in Switzerland, because you have all these little different regions, right? We call them canton. So in every canton, it's different, you know? So, and Switzerland is quite small. So it's possible where I live now, for example, that I can walk 2 kilometers and then suddenly my dog is not allowed anymore. Or there's also places where it's not that the dog is not allowed, but for example, they have to be on leash all the time. So they're never allowed off leash, or they always need to wear a muzzle. So it's different everywhere. People don't understand it. You have to like really inform yourself well to know like, okay, I'm going there, so these are the rules, and there are different rules. Here you can have the dog, but you need a special course. Here you can have the dog, but you need to ask for it. Here it's okay to have one of them, but not two. For me, it doesn't make any sense to me, how it's handled. And it's just being used to sometimes just punish out of nowhere. So there was just, it's not even that long ago, one canton decided from pretty much one day to another just ban a breed because there was one thing that happened with this breed. And then what of course happens is that a lot of people who have this breed get like super scared, like, okay, oh, I need to do a course, I need to get my dog tested, I'm never going to be able to do that. So they just want to get rid of their dogs. So you have even more dogs in the shelters. And the shelters, what do they want to do with a dog that they then can't rehome? For me, it doesn't make any sense. I see other things that are much better to change, like actually educate people who get dogs, and breed is banned and another isn't, and this one is just because it's tall and this one because one day there was something happening, and it's just, I think it's ridiculous, really.
Yeah, the problem most of the time I see in most countries is that the laws are made up by people that don't actually own dogs or know a lot about dogs, but they
Yeah.
just, it's mostly fearful people that make these rules
Mm.
that also aren't educated, which I think makes the fear worse. And is that something you see? Because, of course, we had the law in the Netherlands where staffies were banned for a long time, and you did see that it really increased the fear of staffies in a very irrational way
Yes.
almost. Of course, we, I'm not gonna deny that us people bred them in a way that I sometimes doubt if that is very helpful.
Mm.
And of course we bred in this super anxiety against other dogs, which of course makes them prone to be more reactive or
Yes.
but they are dogs that are very good with people, and because they are were banned, what I saw is that a lot of people thought that they were also really bad with people,
Exactly.
um, and that's just not a fact, even though of course in the news when a staffy bites, all the newspapers jump on it, and when your, I don't know, your labradoodle bites, which happens way more often, no one talks about
Yes, exactly. No, but this is the point. This is exactly what I see here as well. It really depends where in Switzerland you are, because in the French speaking apart staffies and dogs that look like staffies. That goes like also to the bullies and ambullies and everything. They're much more welcome and loved as a breed. And the more you're in the part where the people speak German, the more you feel this fear coming through. And it's also in more of these cantons like that speak German where they're banned actually. So yes, I completely agree with you. I mean, I also like to talk. I think it's interesting and can be good to talk about breed specific things, you know, because they were bred. They stuff was like hunting dogs as well. You know, it's important to know when you have a hunting dog, for example. But people are just using it, this whole discussion, completely wrong. You know, when you use the breed, the Staffy breed, and then you talk about them biting people, it makes zero sense because if you want to talk about what they were bred for, they were also selected for, yeah, being extra nice to people because that's exactly what they shouldn't be doing, right? Harm people. So it's complicated. I did have some possibilities to also talk to people that are actually in politics about these things. And it was mostly really just me answering these kind of questions because they didn't know most of these things. And there is just so much false information going around. And I think that's just also one thing that's really bad for these dogs, but also for all the dogs in general, of course.
Yeah, and also for the people, because being, living in an irrational fear, we are already, most people are already very fearful. I see nowadays that's something that you see all over the world, I think, huh? There's
Mm.
because we know more, or we think we know more, and everyone can put anything on the internet and everyone believes everything that's on the internet. It doesn't really make it better for a lot of people. You see a lot more people with high stress, with anxiety, etc. I sometimes encounter people when I'm walking my dogs, and I don't even have staffies, but that are so scared of dogs, even though my dogs are on leash, they're well behaved, that I'm thinking, oh, this cannot be healthy if that's the way you are just trying to enjoy nature and what should be relaxing. It's still a very tense situation because you're scared of something that isn't even there. My dogs are no threat to you. And I do see that in some countries where I go to, that the fear of certain breeds is this big that it lives on in people's heads even if the dog's not there. And is that something that you see as well in Switzerland, and especially in the parts where they speak German?
Yes, and what you also see a lot is really this. I think that with kids, huh, that parents are extremely scared and they just teach their kids to be scared. And I mean, I do have these kind of dogs, you know that. So from the five, there are three. They just fit this perfectly, right? And I do see that a lot. People just switch sides from the streets when they see me, and it really depends where I am. And that's the funny part because in I'm living in a canton that is like half. There's parts that speak French and parts that speak German. So you see big differences. There's also people here who are scared of dogs where I am in the French speaking part, but it's really a, a bigger problem elsewhere. I think it's what you also said. It's a bit of a problem in the world. Fear just works really well to be honest, to control people, right? So, and I think this is something that just goes through everything with the fear, you know, like also, I also always see that with when someone needs to make a decision, okay, can we, yeah, when we talk about, for example, if you have to euthanize a dog or not, that people just they they act so much out of fear because they're scared. Yeah, but then someone's gonna tell me it's my fault because I didn't kill him, like, so this fear is just, I think, is very omnipresent with a lot of things. And I also do think that comes with not having enough knowledge about, or maybe not understanding dogs well enough, with this idea of he bit out of nowhere. I think we both never saw really a dog biting out of nowhere. There's, of course, a lot of situations where humans just don't see it, but it's never out of nowhere. But it's just all coming together then, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And also, it's all connected, right? Because, like you said, it's the fear of being responsible for something. But when you have a lot of self-esteem and when you do know what you're talking about, like for me, if, I hear that all the time, like, hey, but Liz, if this dog bites someone again, then it's your responsibility because you don't want to euthanize it. And I'm like, I'm down, I don't care, it can be my responsibility because I know my job. And as long as people do what I say, and I do think that is also a big problem in especially in dog behavior world.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how that is in Switzerland, but what I see here in the Netherlands and also other countries where I go, it's still a very ego driven kind of job. And where people, they say, oh, I love animals but I don't love people so much. It's the people that you have to work with. You need to love people in this job because it's them that you need to teach and it's them that you need to educate. And understanding people, understanding the psychology, and not letting your ego rule and being like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool, this dog doesn't do this with me, but it does do it with you, so you are a loser. That's not helping anyone. Better, even, I do think that is making things more unsafe than when you say, hey, it doesn't matter if your dog does it with me or not, because it's not about me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Also with the ego driven, and I think you said, I'm not sure where you were talking about that, maybe in a reel or something, about this also. There's so many different things, like information coming from all sides, and yeah, and there's this ego thing, like, I'm the best, I can do it, and see, I can do it with all the dogs. I mean, in theory, your clients need to be able to do it because you can't take all of them, right? We can't take all the dogs that need our help. We need to teach the people. I think that's a very, very important point to make, and to also work towards that this is different. Also working together in the dog industry, it's horrible. I mean, of course we work together, but we're like coming from the same place. But there's so many experiences we already made where we offered help, and it's just, no, we don't want your help. And I think that's also a ego thing. And yeah, it's just harmful.
Yeah, and that's also for me why I wanted to set up the Animals Fate franchises. So we really create like this worldwide branch where we can always rely on each other, where we can always help each other, and where we don't be like, oh my god, I cannot fix it, so if that person can fix it, then I am a loser or whatever. No, we are here to learn from each other and to, you can never be good at anything, that's impossible. So that's what I also like, with you and me, you are our Staffy and Shepherd lover. Well, I am more driven to stray dogs and old breed. And I do think that is a very nice way to work together because if there's a Steffi that needs some help and I'm like, hey, this is not my cup of tea, or, I know I can always rely on your help. And if you have more these old breeds that you think like, hey, this doesn't work the same as your average shepherd, then
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's also what I really like about all this, and it's just nice to have backup, you know? It can get lonely sometimes, like running against like a wheel or like, because it's big. It's big. A lot of things are happening, and then maybe you're just one person who wants to make a change. So I think we're always stronger together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different sound than you hear in most of the world. So it's important that we gather and that
Yeah.
we make that voice together so people can actually hear us. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Well,
That's very
thank you
true.
so much, Anna, for this interview. And just let people know where they can find you if they need any help with their dog in Switzerland or beyond, I think, as well, because you do. Which languages do you speak so people can find you?
I mean, English, obviously. Yeah, I mean, my French, I'm working on my French. It's not the best yet, but I mean, I can still help people. And of course, German and Swiss German. I think that's a really big part that I can cover because it's just my native language, of course.
Yeah, perfect. So anyone that's listening here and that lives in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, or even France, and you need some help, make sure to find Anna. So I will link all your details
Hmm.
underneath this episode so
Awesome.
everyone can find you on Instagram, on Facebook, on your website, etc. Yeah, then I would just want to thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
And can't wait until we founded that Animals Fate Foundation in Switzerland.
Yes, stay tuned. It might take a while, but we're working on it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Very welcome. Bye bye. And thank you for
Bye.
listening to this episode.